Hey everybody, welcome to Money's No Object. I am your host, Dylan Howell. This is episode number 46 of our YouTube channel and podcast, and I could not be more excited to continue talking with you guys about personal finance topics and things that I think are just continuing to help you guys grow forward in your financial lives day by day. Today, we are going to talk about something that I haven't covered to this point, but it's a specific type of debt, and that is medical debt. So we're going to talk about how medical debt happens, how we can keep from getting too deep into medical debt, how we can get out of medical debt if we're already under it. We know that the cost of healthcare in the United States is extremely high. We know that there are so many uncontrollable things that come along with medical bills and the debt that comes with medical issues. But we're going to do our best today to talk about financially how you can meet those issues head on and how we can continue to push forward even when we are in the midst of a crisis. But before we get started, if you could, go down below, hit the big red subscribe button, like this video, hit the big thumbs up. Also, leave me any feedback in the comments. I'd be glad to take any of your questions or comments, and I'll be sure to get back with you on those things. Also, follow me on social media at MNO with Dylan. I put a lot of good stuff out there every day, a lot of tips that I think could be really helpful to you, and just provide the motivation daily that you need apart from these videos to continue pushing forward in your financial life. If you're listening to this on the podcast, on Apple or Spotify podcasts, I appreciate you guys. If you could, just go ahead and subscribe on whichever platform you're on and leave me a review. I'd be really glad to see what you guys have to say about this particular podcast. Lastly, if you want to work with me in financial coaching, you can check out the services that I offer on my website, www.mnowithdylan.com. Now let's jump into the first question that we're going to answer today, and that is very simply, what is medical debt? And honestly, it's one of the worst kinds. It's the kind that you don't sign up for. You're not signing up for medical debt. You are not signing up for having to pay doctor's bills or medical bills or hospital bills or whatever. You're not signing up for that. We don't want that. We want to stay healthy and not have to pay for large procedures and for hospital stays and things like that. But there are certain things we just can't control, and this is one of them. Some visits to the hospital are expected. So like if your dad needs to go get a knee replacement, then I mean that's a pretty expected thing that's planned for in the future. It's elective. They can determine when it needs to happen and things like that. But if somebody's kidneys are failing, or if somebody has cancer, or if somebody breaks a bone, or if somebody tears a ligament, whatever these things, these are pressing issues, and we can't dodge them. We have to meet them head on, and we have to take care of them immediately. And that can be an issue financially because we didn't plan for it, and it's hard to plan for things that you don't know if they're going to happen. But we're going to do our best to put safeguards in place between you and the possibility of certain things happening. Medical debt can just really, really add up on you, especially on the big things, and it can be overwhelming. But within this video, I want my purpose to be to take away some of that overwhelming feeling and give you the motivation, if you are in this place, to go ahead and push forward and go ahead and meet this head on and try to get out of this particular debt, or decrease the amount of this particular debt that you have. And we'll talk about that here shortly. Now, how do we go about dealing with medical debt? Well, first and foremost, I want you to know this. You need to focus on your family first. Don't worry about the money. Don't worry about the debt. Don't worry about the things you can't control. I know it's very, very hard to not think about those things because they are such big, pressing issues. But worry about your family first. Be present with the individual who may have a health issue or a medical issue. Make sure that you're there and that you're emotionally available to them. If it's you, then really worry about yourself and worry about getting better and worry about healing whatever you have going on physically. Because without a good physical body, it's very, very difficult to do things financially that are going to push you forward. It's hard to push forward at all without the physical wherewithal to do so. So focus on yourself, focus on your family first, and make sure that you're staying calm. Don't worry about the bill until the bill comes in. Stay very calm in the moment. Let the bill be worried about once you actually get it. Don't stress over something that hasn't even hit yet. And you know how unpredictable medical bills and doctor bills can be. So don't allow those things to stress you out at the exact moment that the thing happens. That's not to say that you shouldn't plan for those things, but like I said, putting your family first and not worrying and staying calm in the moment can be so key and so bring so much peace in your future if you are able to do that. And then you need to review every single medical bill, hospital bill that you get. It is not uncommon for people to be double charged, overcharged, unfairly charged for things that didn't even occur or may have occurred, but they double charged you for it or something. And ask questions. Call the hospital, call the company that's holding the debt, and ask the questions. Because if you get charged for something that you don't need to pay, you don't need to pay that thing. And so you can actually get your debt greatly reduced if you're able to review the bills, go line by line once you receive them. For instance, if your family member went to the ER for a broken arm and went home the same day, and you get charged for a 3-night hospital stay, something's wrong there. And apart from that, make sure that if you have health insurance, and I hope you do, that your doctor or the hospital sends the bill to the health insurance company first. That way you'll know everything that they are going to cover, and then you can ask or refute why they didn't cover certain things that maybe you thought should be covered. Anything that you can do in reviewing the bill to get the bill decreased that is fair and that is reasonable should be done, because you want to make sure that whatever you're paying for is actually what you need to be paying for, and mistakes can be made. So let's say you get this bill, you review the bill, and then let's say you look down and you go, oh, well, my emergency fund could cover this bill. Great. That's fantastic. That's why we keep an emergency fund. That's why we build up that 1 month of expenses and then eventually the 4 to 6 months of expenses once you are out of consumer debt, because we want to be in a position to where we can have an emergency hit and something big hit our lives, and we can work our way out of it with that emergency fund and pay for it in cash up front. And that's exactly what you want, because all you would have to do at that point is, once you paid the bill and everything was settled in full and you're done, then all you have to do is replenish your emergency fund and move right along the financial action plan in whatever step you happen to be on. And this is what we want. This is what we want to happen. I'm not saying it's best case scenario for the medical bill to have to be paid, but it's best case scenario if you can pay it in full up front. Because we all know that it doesn't feel good to pay the things you owe. We've talked about that with paying off all different kinds of debt. It just doesn't feel good, right? You don't feel good when you lose the money. Now it feels good to get things paid. Like, it feels good to get that motivation to keep pushing forward. But you're throwing money at things that you're never going to see any return from that, other than the freedom that comes with being out of debt. So we don't like spending our savings on things that we didn't plan for, things that we didn't want, but sometimes it is necessary. And that's what our emergency fund is for. It is insurance against tragedy. And so, given that that's the fact, I would say a broken arm, or a big medical scare, or cancer, or what, I would guess that these things are tragedies. These things are short-term tragedies in your life that you have to take care of, that you have to bear with. And the best way to go about doing so would be to go ahead and pay with cash, pay with that emergency fund, and then pay yourself back after the fact. Now, let's say you're not in that position. Let's say either your emergency fund doesn't fully cover the medical bill, or your emergency fund doesn't cover the medical bill at all. Well, then we have to start taking some good steps to get you where you need to be quickly. So first and foremost, what you need to do is any savings you do have, go ahead and throw it at that particular medical debt other than 1 month of expenses. Obviously, that's the first thing we do after we budget in the financial action plan. So if you have more than 1 month's expenses in savings, then you need to go ahead and throw everything else at that particular bill. And let's say that doesn't cover it, right? Or let's say you don't have any savings yet. Well, then you do need to walk down the financial action plan. This is going to take you to the point where you're not going to pay this thing off unless you get to step 4 of the financial action plan, where you're actually paying off all of your consumer debt. And something that might be a legitimate option for you, and something that you might need to do if you can't fully pay the bill, then you need to go sit down with the hospital's administrator or somebody in that particular department that can help you and say, I'm not able to pay this in full. I'm going to have trouble paying this. Can we set up some kind of system, some kind of payment plan? That way I'm not sent to collections, because that's the last thing we want. We don't want to be sent to collections on our medical bills. So make sure that you actually get something in writing, get something upfront from the hospital that will allow you to pay it off systematically if you cannot pay it in full. And you have to leave your pride at the door if you're going to do that, because it's really you asking for some mercy, some help from the hospital, and they may even help you in knocking down the bill some, which they want money. They want you to pay them as much as you can pay them, but they don't want to receive nothing. And just like any other creditor, they're afraid that they'll receive nothing a lot of times, and so they will help you out in order to get the money that they have, because this is not secured debt. They can't come after your home or your car or whatever. Like those things, they can just take that thing away from you. This is not secured debt. And so when you tell, it's just like with credit card companies, if you're having to negotiate with credit card companies because you legitimately can't pay them, they will take something over nothing. And remember this, you're not trying to get out of paying. What you're trying to do is you're just trying to get the best situation for yourself moving forward, and you're trying to get them to help you and assist you to get to a place where you can actually manage the payment and then eventually pay it off. But once you do get something figured out and some plan figured out, this needs to go right into our debt repayment plan. We don't need to freak out and try to pay extra on it really quick unless it is our lowest debt or our only debt, in which case we would try to pay on that thing immediately. What we need to do is we need to put it in our debt repayment plan of the smallest to largest. Don't worry about interest rate. Start with the smallest, pay minimum payments on everything else, and then all extra money you have, pound on the smallest debt, and then just roll that into the next debt over and over and over again until you are out of debt. And I've talked about that many times previously, and that's the plan. And so this is no different of a debt. It's just we need to have a clear understanding with the particular creditor, which is the hospital or the medical company or whatever, that you can pay it back in a particular way, and then make sure that you keep your part of the bargain. So let's say then, what if you are behind on your medical debt payments, or you've been sent to collections? This is a little bit different situation than the one previously, but I want to speak to it. So debt collection typically begins when you've gone an extended period of time without paying on your debt. And so the hospital might send your debt to a debt collector. This happens. But the reason that I said earlier that you need to try to negotiate and talk to your hospital or doctor about your bill is because we don't want this to happen. This is a worst case scenario, because you need to be communicating with them, letting them know your ability to pay and in what amounts. That way you don't get sent to collections, because this can really put a damper on your credit and your ability to do other things in your financial life. And with collection agencies, as much as we hate to talk about it, they lie to you. They will tell you things that absolutely are not true. They will say, "Oh, we'll garnish your wages tomorrow," or no, they won't. Here's the thing. They can, but it's going to require a court order first. They're going to have to sue you first. And if you're really early in the process, they're not going to do that. So know your rights, know what your process is in moving forward with these collections agencies. And you're going to have to kind of play hardball with them because, once again, they want money too. They're, just like the hospital or medical company, they want to collect on the things that, on the debts that they have purchased. So a couple things. Understand exactly the amount you owe. Don't, not about, not, I think, no, understand exactly the amount you owe. Okay, so you need to know that first and foremost. Then, because like I said, they will lie to you, tell you maybe you owe more or you whatever. Know exactly the amount you owe. Do not give them access to your bank account, period. Because if you give people access to your bank account, you are likely to get it wiped out. Don't do that. And then do not give them anything until you negotiate a settlement offer. Get that offer in writing. Okay, don't just take their word for it and the call recording will do. No, in writing. Get that offer sent to you and signed in writing, all good offer. Then pay them back with what you do have, hopefully in full over a period of time. But maybe it's a payment plan to them. But no access to your bank account, and make sure you get it in writing up front before you do anything. That's paramount with collections. So what are some ways that we can guard against medical debt occurring again? Well, what we can do is obviously the emergency fund. The emergency fund is a big deal. The reason that I started with individuals who did have emergency funds is because they can easily deal with medical bills relative to others because they have money saved. They have money set aside for a rainy day. And that's going to allow you to, when it rains, when things are bad, you can go ahead and just take care of it up front. So that emergency fund is a big deal, especially once it's built to 4 to 6 months of expenses, because there are very few things that are going to penetrate that particular mark. And if anything does, it is a very big issue. Because a large hospital bill can tear down your financial life really quickly if you don't have some kind of savings in place that will allow you to pay for the things that you need to pay for. And then also taking advantage of health savings accounts over time can really help you here, because there's a couple reasons that these can help you. These high deductible health insurance plans, not everybody has them, but if you do, and it's HSA qualified and you can get an HSA, you should have an HSA that you're putting money into systematically, month by month, paycheck by paycheck, whatever it may be. And the benefits to doing this are multiple fold. So what we're looking at here is, the health savings account can grow for you, so you can put the money in and have it invested to grow for you. The health savings account is triple tax advantage, so you get big tax advantages. So you get a tax deduction for what you put in. It grows tax free, and anything you use on qualified medical expenses, it is tax free on the back end as well. So triple tax advantaged in that way. And just putting small amounts away over time into an HSA and then having that money sitting there that is specifically earmarked for qualified medical expenses anyway, is going to help you a lot, because then you'll be able to look over there and go, so not only should I have my emergency fund, I should also have, if I have access to an HSA, I'll have this HSA money. So I can use both of those pools of money to do what I need to do in paying off a medical bill. And flexible spending accounts can be very helpful too. Those just have different advantages as the HSA, but in a similar way, having that amount of money just socked away along with the emergency fund that you have set up can do you so much good. And then you have to get or keep health insurance. Not having health insurance can be so dangerous if you're hit with a big medical bill. I understand that health insurance is hard to come by for a lot of individuals, but if you have to change jobs and find an employer that does offer health insurance to all the employees, if you have to find a way to get around a pre-existing condition issue that maybe you have or something like that, do everything you can, because the cost, I understand the healthcare cost, the cost of health insurance itself is high, but the cost of a medical bill without health insurance, if you have a heart attack, a stroke, cancer, all these big issues, these big things, this can just eat away at your finances just so quickly. And we don't want that to happen. So getting and keeping health insurance is so important. And if you're just not having health insurance because you don't think you're going to get sick or get hurt or have an issue, then you have another thing coming, because you're not Superman. You are not indestructible or invincible. You need health insurance just as much as the next person. So towards the end here, I want to cover a couple of no-nos about medical debt and things that you should not do when it comes to medical debt. We know, first and foremost, I say do not pull from your retirement accounts to pay off debt unless it's going to keep you from bankruptcy or foreclosure. And that may be the case in your particular situation, but that should not be the rule that you play by. That should not be something that you want to do. It should be a last-ditch effort if you have to. But otherwise, we want to keep that money growing for us, and we want to be able to take care of the medical debt in a systematic way or in a lump sum way, and not pull from those accounts that are growing and compounding for us and doing us a lot of long-term benefit that they would not be able to do us if we just felt the need to just take the money from them and throw it on this particular medical debt. Also, and I brought up bankruptcy, don't file for bankruptcy unnecessarily. Don't look at a number and go, oh, that number's high, I don't want to have to deal with it, I'll file bankruptcy and get a new start. Bankruptcy is really, really detrimental to your financial life in a longer term. I mean, the next 7 to 10 years of your life can really be scarred by a bankruptcy. So if it's not necessary, do not do it. If it's not something that you have to do, do not do it. I'm trying to find every way that I can to be able to pay for something that's setting me back before I run to bankruptcy. Sell things, work more hours, do everything you can to get more income in your pocket and less expenses out of your pocket, and so you can pay on these debts. And these are also the most negotiated debts out there, medical bills. That they get so negotiated that you can negotiate down your amount and settle it very, very likely, but it all hinges on you having the money to pay that settlement amount. So just know that should not be your first, second, third, or fourth option. That should be way, way down the list. And if you happen to get there, okay, but that should not be something that we're trying to do. Don't just go unnecessarily file for bankruptcy. And then also, don't sign up for a medical credit card. That's a big no-no with medical debt. So these are credit cards that are typically offered by your medical provider that can help you to cover medical debt or help you to cover your medical bills. But the problem is you can end up paying more than what's necessary on these particular bills, given the fact that these credit cards are going to have very high interest rates, as most credit cards do. And when you do this, when you sign up for these medical credit cards and you pay off the particular medical debt, but you still have the credit card debt, now the ability to negotiate goes out the window. Now you can no longer negotiate and bargain and talk about your ability to pay for something with the medical company. Now you just have to go directly and you have to pay off that other debt. You're just trading debt for debt. And honestly, you're probably trading a worse debt for a better debt. So not that there are any good debts, but a higher interest debt is always going to be worse to your financial life. It's going to make you pay more. So we don't want that. So let's try to steer clear of these, because honestly, this medical debt is not going to accrue interest in the way that the medical credit card will. And so that can just eat at your financial life. And I know sometimes it's so overwhelming. Sometimes it's so difficult to look around and go, what in the world are my options when it comes to this? I've never been in this situation. I see the benefits to certain things, and I just want to be out from under this. But you have to think rationally. Like I said at the beginning of the video, make sure that you're taking care of your family, and then that you stay calm, and then allow yourself to make rational decisions once the bills do come in, because the problems come when you get too overwhelmed and you start making bad decisions. I know that's easier said than done, but you have to do so, or else you'll end up making decisions that are detrimental to yourself, your family, and your long-term financial future. And I don't want you guys in that position. I want you guys in a position of financial strength. That's why we talk about the financial action plan in the way we do, because for most things, building that emergency fund within the plan can cover it. And so it can take care of the particular issues that you may have. And so I want you to be in that place of financial strength and the ability to pay these things off when they come around. So I understand you cannot control the medical bills that you have. In many, many ways, you cannot control them. You can't control if you go outside and you trip and bust your head open. You cannot control that. You cannot control little things that occur in life, or you can't control being a healthy individual and getting cancer for some reason. You cannot control that. But at the same time, we need to make sure that we're not so out of control with the things that we can control, like our emergency savings, like our ability to have health insurance and save in an HSA and plan for the future. We need to make sure that those things are ironclad and are done, and are, the boxes on all those things are checked. That way, when we do go into a place of emergency or tragedy, then we can take care of what we need to take care of in a timely manner, and without far too much pain associated with it. Basically, there are definite ways to distance yourself from tragedy, and you should do every one of them. But we cannot guarantee against tragedy completely. And that's my real big message of this video, is that we want to distance ourselves from the likelihood of medical debt. But sometimes you just can't completely distance yourself from certain things, and this could be one of them. So hey, thanks for watching this video. If you could, go down below, click the big red subscribe button, like this video, leave me any feedback in the comments if you haven't already. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify podcasts, please go and subscribe there and leave me a review. I'd be glad to see what you guys have to say. Also, follow me on social media at MNO with Dylan. That'll be the best follow that you have on these particular types of topics, because I'm putting out content all the time, and so you'll be able to see the things that are on my mind and the things that I think are going to help you the most in the long term. Also, if you want help with your particular financial situation, if you want somebody to coach you through the process of building a financial plan, I can do that. Go to my website, www.mnowithdylan.com, and you can pay for a financial coaching session and sign up there. So tune in tomorrow as I talk about a little different topic, but also something that can end up getting you in debt, and it's your home equity and the reasons why we should not be borrowing from our home equity. And so we'll talk about that particular topic tomorrow. But thank you guys for watching this video or listening to this podcast. Thanks for just consuming the content, consuming this episode. Hopefully you got a lot out of it, and I really appreciate every single one of you for tuning in today. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Money's No Object. I am your host, Dylan Howell. God bless.